and welcome. A very good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to all our global attendees. I'm Aditi and I truly appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Thank you for being patient. If you are working with Dynamics 365 for CRM and Xero for accounting, you already know that keeping both systems in sync often involve manual efforts, entering the same data twice, managing inconsistencies, and depending on multiple teams to stay aligned. Today's session is focused on solving that challenge using the Xero accounting connector for Dynamics 365. But before we get started, let me briefly introduce you about Solution IT Services. Founded in 2011, Solution is a Microsoft solution partner in data and AI, specializing in Dynamics 365 Power Platform, custom app development, artificial intelligence, and industry solutions framework. So we have add-ons like Xero, for which we are conducting today's webinar. We have Flow Template Edit Help, Report Scheduler, Activity Timeline, Kanban board, and more, as you can see on your screen. We also operate additional business division which you can explore on our website. It will be my pleasure to introduce our host for today's session, Mr. Nikhil Gehlot, co-founder and technology specialist at Solution. Nikhil brings over 25 years of experience in technology and leadership. He has held roles at Microsoft and Mahindra Satram, contributing to Solution architecture, strategy, and digital transformation initiatives. At Solution, he leads innovation in Dynamics 365, Power Platform, and AI-based solution. Now, Nikhil, over to you.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and I see a lot of familiar names today in the attendees. So thank you for taking the time to join in. And I think we are here because somewhere in our projects and our journeys, we have encountered two systems. One is obviously Dynamics 365 CRM, and second is the Xero accounting tool. Both systems are a superb set of systems specifically targeted towards own areas. Dynamics 365 CRM, I think in our case right now, we are talking about more from a sales automation perspective, where we are talking about accounts, contacts, opportunities, quotations, invoices, orders, the kind of sales automation piece from a dynamic CRM perspective. And Xero accounting is more from a financial accounting perspectives, where we are talking about invoices, payments, recurring billings, and so on and so forth. Now, every organization typically has a CRM and a financial accounting system. While we have other accounting connectors, but today we are here specifically to talk about challenges between and how do we solve those challenges between Dynamics CRM and Xero. Now, very simply, it's just duplicate double data entry. So you create your pipeline in CRM. From the pipeline, typically you would go into your quotations. Quotations would eventually, when you win it up, it will go into the invoicing. And then the finance team or somebody would need to look at CRM. They would need to understand how CRM works. They would need to open CRM on one screen, typically, or the sales team would give them an Excel dump from CRM, and they would need to do and they will entry into Xero accounting software, right? The solution is our Xero connector, because we have also faced similar situations in the past where the customer was running Dynamics 365 CRM and they had Xero. So the Xero connector typically enables a two-way sync between core CRM entities like account, contacts, and into respective Xero account, Xero tables. If you look at what gets in between what kind of systems, so let's start with accounts. So typically the master data or the source system of truth remains Dynamics 365. So here we are talking about Dynamics 365 to Xero synchronization. So that's the way it syncs up, right? Synchronization is almost in real time. Typically it takes between 60 seconds or so to move from one CRM system to the Xero system. Similarly goes for contacts, because the sales team typically are responsible for these two. All right. And like I said, the invoices gets created when you win a particular project. So it goes from Dynamics 365 to Xero. Uh, this is supported both in a real time as well as a background batch sync, and we'll see how it works. And updates to then the second kind of invoice, I would not really say an invoice, it's more of a bill, which is accounts payable. If you have something like this in CRM, then that also can go. Typically, in our experience, we have seen you have customers and you also have vendors in your CRM. And for vendors, typically there are bills, right? It could be agent commissions or something like this that needs to be paid out. So that's the scenario. This kind of bills or accounts payable from CRM then syncs the data back to Xero. Next is payments, because we are talking about invoices and bills. The source of truth typically for the payments is Xero. So the payments are settled within Xero. It could be a single payment, it could be a batch payment, and then you settle it against your invoices or the bills. And that detail comes from Xero back into Dynamics 365, giving a complete visibility to the sales team on what is happening with the invoices or what is happening with the bills, right? This is a scheduled interval. Currently, it's configured at 4 hours. Obviously, it's configurable. You could increase the timeline or you could decrease the timeline, but the default time of synchronization is 4 hours. And the below three items are more of master data. So products are equivalent of items maybe in Xero. We support two-way sync here. You can configure it. Some organizations say the source of truth is Xero, right? So the products from Xero get synced back into Dynamics 365 CRM. Or we have encountered some customers where the products are also maintained within as a source of truth in Dynamics. So then the sync direction becomes Dynamics to Xero. So product is a specialized item which can support either this D365 to Xero or Xero to D365. And then we are talking about tax rates, the tax slabs, 0%, 5%, exclusive of tax, and so on, right? And then the chart of accounts, important on which heads all of these expenses and invoices are getting synced to. So these are the kind of master data that are also synced. What are the key features of our connector? So one is, like we saw, it is truly a bi-directional sync, and we allow you to maintain a single source of truth. That is, for example, accounts needs to be maintained in CRM. Chart of accounts, tax rates, payments, all those things are need to be maintained in Xero. So the system which is the source of truth, you maintain it there, and the other system gets synced automatically. We have configurable sync options. What it means is, many customers at times want almost a real-time sync or a near real-time sync. They want that as soon as the account or a contact is created, it needs to get synced. Some customers have different business logics, like only when a particular opportunity is won, and then only a contact should get synced, or when an invoice is created for a contact or an account, then the customer records needs to get synced. So there are various scenarios in which, or various points at which you would want to sync the records from one system to another. So we give you that flexibility, and we allow you complete control on when the record qualifies for synchronization, and that's when it gets picked up. Then it's about flexible field mapping. So what fields within Dynamics CRM typically maps to which fields in Xero. Similarly, what type of, so you might have I will show you an example. Maybe we created a custom type in invoice called as type, which is payable or receivable. So we are in CRM, for the demo perspective, we are using the same invoice entity, which can be treated as an invoice and bill, depending upon what type of invoice it is. So you can define all those field mappings on when it becomes a bill, when it becomes an invoice, and so on. Then we have a dashboard within Dynamics to track what is going wrong, which records are failing, what is the reason for failure, and so on. So you get a complete visibility into what is happening within the Dynamics umbrella itself. Obviously, it's secure and reliable, because if you are going from Dynamics CRM into Power Automate and then calling the official Xero API, there are no third-party other systems that are coming into the picture. And mostly There is no coding required, only for your logic, apart from the logic of when a record qualifies for your synchronization. So that's your internal logic that you need to work out. But apart from that, there is typically no coding required, and it's well documented, and you can even set up the connectors within few minutes or hours. So moving forward, how it works, I said it's no developers are required typically. So you need to go, maybe your IT admin needs to go into Xero and create an app and authorize and grant access to Xero accounts. You need to go into Azure AD and create an application user. So that's typically what is done by our IT admin team. And then when it is done, you need to define all the rules of sync direction, where I talk about is it syncing from Dynamics to Xero or Xero to Dynamics? What are the default values? What are your field mappings? So kind of a master data configuration, typically one-time activity. And then you start by initiating the sync for master data, like your tax rates, chart of accounts, products. And once your master data is all synced up, and you are simply good to go to sync your customers, sync your invoices, and go on day-to-day purposes. So let's look at certain demos, and we'll go step by step. We'll cover at least 4 scenarios here. The first scenario is I will briefly take you through a connector configuration. We'll look at a customer sync, which is an account and contact sync. We'll look at an invoice sync, maybe both kind of syncs, payable and receivable, which is invoice and bills. And then we'll try and make a payment. We'll try and make a single payment. And we'll also try and see if batch payments, how batch payments work into the CRM. All right, let me come back to CRM. So this is dynamic CRM. So you get a managed solution. Once you install the managed solution, you get a particular app called as a Xero app, okay, which is published by Solution. And when you go into the Xero app, obviously you see a default dashboard where typically there are views in which when the records have failed, you see in this particular invoice, we can see that there is a very clear error that the customer related to this particular invoice has failed to synchronize, and hence eventually this invoice has failed because the account number at the customer account level is already existing in Xero, and Xero doesn't allow duplicate account numbers or account identifier, and that is why it has failed, right? So this is the dashboard that you get. But more than the dashboard, let me first go and show you the configuration. So this is the configuration that we are talking about. Okay. And here you authorize your application, which is Azure app, to connect to your Xero instance. This is a one-time code. Okay. And this is the fun part where you can see what kind of fields are mapping to what kind of activities. So, for example, your contacts may have customer contacts and maybe also employees, maybe your staff. So you can define which type of contact would get synced into an employee. So for example, we are saying it is dependent upon a pick list or an option set within the contact entity. And right now it is configured that a coordinator and the salesperson is really not a customer. They are coordinator. But maybe agent, vendor, and students are either my vendors or customers. So you can define similarly from an account perspective, you can define which are your customers, who are your customers, and who are your vendors based on what option type. Below you can see which invoice fields in dynamic CRM kind of map to which fields in Xero. So what is your invoice reference number? Okay. You can see that if you have a different custom field, you can select that. What will it be your date? Should it be a created on date or invoice date or due date? Which date would sync into Xero as the invoice date? Okay. Which field contains line item account code and tax type code within your dynamic CRM? Then also invoice mapping. So if we are talking about payables or receivables, so for example, I have a particular field which is invoice type, here, and it acts as outgoing becomes payable, which is accounts pay in Xero, and receivables becomes account receivables in Xero. So you kind of define the complete field mapping here. The second configuration that you typically see is defines what kind of data are we talking about. So for example, initially, like I said, you need to sync certain master data. So sync chart of accounts or sync tax rates. So at the moment you would say it as yes. So if you say it as yes, then it will start syncing chart of accounts. If I flip this flag as yes, it will start syncing tax rates. Similarly, from a product mapping perspective, I can define what is my sync direction, that my source of truth for products, is it Xero or is it CRM? If it's Xero, then there are different options. If it is CRM, then there are different options. So you can define that. And then here you kind of control what data has synced, when it was synced. For example, when did all the last invoices synced? When did all the last products sync? So let me move to the second scenario, which is account and customers. So this is my contacts, all contacts. Let me try and sync a particular customer. So let me go to accounts and Northbridge Financial Services. If I go into the Xero details, it has not synced in yet. Let me quickly check Northbridge Financial Services in Xero. I don't see any account in Xero with Northbridge Financial Services. Let me go flip the switch to yes. Now this specific flip, I am doing it manually, but depending upon your logics on when you want a customer to get synced, at particular stage, when an invoice is created, when an opportunity is won, this can be on internal logic, and you come and flip this switch to yes using either a plugin or a Power Automate flow, or maybe manually. And the moment you save it, it will trigger a process in the background, which would eventually go into a Power Automate flow, and that will call the Xero API to start syncing this particular record into a Xero. If we go ahead and try and refresh this, we should see the first status is pending. Okay, it moved very fast, but it has synced already to Xero. Now, if we go ahead and look in our Xero, and we have this data. So Northbridge Financial Services have now come into the account. Now let's see, this is a create of a account. Let's try and update something. Maybe I'll try and update the mobile number here. So if I go back here, and maybe instead of 33, I will say 44. And then come here again, flip the switch to yes. And if I'll come back after some time, this 33 would be 44. So give it a little bit of time. And you see 44. So it's almost near real time where the numbers are getting synced. So similarly, account and contact follow a similar procedure, where if I go to any particular, maybe let me see. If I open any account, maybe Emilia Brown, this is the similar mechanism where we have synced it to Xero, and once it is synced, you get a synchronization successful remark and a corresponding Xero ID for that particular record. Okay. We also have which organization or which company within Xero that you need to sync in. In future, we intend to use it like if you have multiple business units and each business unit belongs to a different company in Xero. So you can set the right set of records in right company organization within Xero. Okay. Coming to maybe the invoice scenario. Okay. Let me see. I think yeah. So this is a computer system upgrade invoice, a standard CRM invoice. It has, or rather, maybe before going to the invoice, let me quickly show the products. Again, the products, when we sync up the master data, They have a tab called as Zero Details, and it tells you it is synchronized, it has a product ID, what is the default chart of accounts based on between Xero and CRM, what's the default tax rate, this is tax exempt. And when you use these products within your invoices, these are the data points that would typically flow into Xero. If I go to a particular invoice, which is computer system upgrade, this is a receivable type of invoice. I would go ahead and sync it to yes. Okay. But right now it will not initiate the sync, and I'll come back to you on why it will not initiate the sync right now doing this. And maybe so this was an invoice which I've just synced right now or marked as syncing right now. Similarly, I'll go to a desktop purchase order, and this is a bill, which is an outgoing payable invoice, and I will also mark it to sync yes. So both of them will be at a pending stage and they will not sync yet. Okay. The reason is we at times want to allow batch synchronization of set of invoices which are marked or bills which are marked as sync to sync to Xero in a single batch, and that way we can optimize the API call and the API limits that are enforced by Xero. So if you are creating many invoices, then based on your scenario, you could trigger it. Either you can trigger both of them together if you would like, or you can say, okay, when total project invoices of this stages get created, then you go ahead and finally mark this invoice syncing details to yes, and this would eventually trigger that invoice. Go back to my first table, which was computer system upgrade, and see if it is synced or not. It is synced. I will look at this invoice in the Xero system, and I should be able to see the invoices. If I go look at invoices, I should be able to see them in the draft stage, which is this invoice, 2x2 BIG 2x2 B1G 2x2 B1G 2x2 that gets synced. It is at the draft stage. I can approve the invoice. So let me just approve the invoice. Okay. And this is another scenario that I am going to now record a payment, maybe within Xero against this particular invoice. I can do a full payment or I can do a partial payment. In this scenario, let's say I'm just doing a partial payment. Okay, and I'm going to record the payment. If I come back to Dynamic CRM and go to my invoice, let me see and refresh this. Okay. Go to the dashboard, and you see here something called a Xero payments, and we have this first installment which is recorded of $100,000 against that particular invoice. If we go into that particular invoice, same B1G1 2x2, and look at the Xero payment, and we have this first installment linked to it. Now similarly, if I want to go and look at certain bills, okay, so these are the bills that are being synced today. If I look at draft, everything comes to at the draft. This was the bill that I did just now. Maybe I'll select all of them, or maybe 3 of them, and approve of global editech right now. Okay, I'll go to awaiting payments. I'll select all of them and try and make a batch payment. Today's date, I will do a bank account, and and I'll make the payments. Okay. So again, this what it'll do is this will initiate it's almost like a scheduler. Like I said, typically it's a 4 hourly job that is synchronized, but I let me just initiate it on demand to see if it gets synced. I should be seeing all these global edu invoices with this full payment made batch transaction in Xero right in our payments view right now. So if I go to payments view, there are 13 records. If I did this, as you can see now there are 16 records, and all of these three have come in, which is global edutech. All right, so all of this comes under Global Tech Edu Solutions, so which is office equipment, bulk payment, and monthly new due, which is what was here. W6, P2, and V7. It should be those invoices. If I open this particular thing, right, and I look at Xero details, it is just synced right now, 29/4, and this is the UTC time on when it was synced, which is the payment date, what is the amount, which is the customer, and this is the invoice which is linked. So it will be one of those links, 7W6, and this is the first invoice, 7W6. So we support both single payment, batch payments, both at the invoice level and the bills level. And if something fails, you can come back to your Xero dashboard, you can configure the alerts, and it will start showing up in the Xero dashboard on why it has failed and the reason. You can rectify it, mark the flag as yes, and then reinitiate the sync. Coming back to the presentation, I think we have covered all the 4 scenarios. In the roadmap, one thing which is first and foremost is the solution will be coming to Microsoft, getting published to Microsoft App Stores pretty soon. Like I said, based on the business unit, we want to allow for multi-company support. So one business unit can belong to a particular company in Xero, and you can record appropriate transactions, customers, everything into that particular company. And additional entity support like credit note or quotations apart from the account, contact, invoice, those kind of things. So currently, this is the roadmap for the product. Finally, needless to say, obviously this saves a lot of time, duplicate data entry, manual data entry, minimizes a lot of errors, provides people real-time visibility into what's happening. People work with their own dedicated systems. Sales team works on Dynamics, finance team works on Xero. They don't need to learn 2 systems and figure out 2 systems to track or send out emails. You can fully leverage and your investments and actually get the best out of both worlds with a fully integrated scenario. And one of the most important thing is it is completely in your control on when you want to sync, what you want to sync from Dynamics to Xero. So there could be certain type of records which for certain conditions you don't want to sync. Completely up to you. Unless you mark it as synchronizable, it will not pick that particular record. It supports for AU, NZ, UK, different kinds of Xero environments. Definitely, I would like to invite any questions if you guys have. More than happy to answer. I hope you found this useful. But you can mute one by one, and maybe if you have questions, you can ask them.
Nikhil, we have received a few questions, so let's address them. Also, Nikhil, what kind of data can be synchronized?
I think right now, like we covered, it's account, contact, invoice, product, payments.
Next question is from Steve. Is there any user limitation for that free environment?
There is no user limitation on the free environment. The free environment is like full capability, just that it's restricted to 30 days. After 30 days, the trial will stop working.
Nikhil, also, we have one more question from Praveen. He is asking, how can we see the partial payment status?
At the invoice level, when something is partially paid, then the invoice status changes to partially paid instead of fully paid. So it matches the amount, and if the amounts are matching completely, then it either gets fully paid or it gets partially paid.
I think, Nikhil, that's all for today. So thank you so much for this insightful session, and I thanks everyone for joining us today. Don't hesitate to reach us out directly, or you can email us or for further information or schedule demo.